Good morning. We're coming on the air now with breaking news. Vice President Kamala Harris is set to pick Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate. There he is right there, two-term governor of Minnesota. Want to go straight to Selena Wang, who is there in Philadelphia. And Selena, Walz appears to fit the all-American definition of a man from middle America. High school teacher, football coach, member of the Army National Guard before becoming a member of Congress and now governor.
Exactly. He really has that perfect backstory. He also has those rural roots, and he's really emerged as the dark horse in this Veep Stakes race. He has emerged as the favorite very recently as he has been on the cables, on the network, showing that he can effectively push back on those Republican attacks. He's the one, George, remember, who labeled J.D. Vance and his Republican allies as, quote, weird, which gained a lot of steam with the Harris campaign.
Kamala Harris, new VP pick, is one of the best things that happened to Trump. But this year, so many great things have been happening to Trump. In this video, let's take a look. Let's get to learn who the hell is this guy. Oh, by the way, my name is Noel, battling MS. Here at Verbal on Life, remember to hit that like button.
Welcome to Jesse Watters Primetime tonight.
Don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
Everybody needs to be woke. Just stay more woke than less woke.
Meet the most radical ticket in history.
Are we ready to fight for it?
Kamala Harris announced her VP pick today, and this ticket's so liberal, it's like they're trying to lose. Here's the authentic, not staged at all, call Kamala made to the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz.
Hi, this is Tim.
It's Kamala Harris. Good morning, Governor.
Good morning, Madam Vice President.
Listen, I want you to do this with me. Let's do this together. Would you be my running mate and let's get this thing on the road?
I would be honored, Madam Vice President.
This was Kamala's first major decision, and she choked. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro was the frontrunner, but sources say he was too Jewish for the Hamas wing of the party and was too talented a campaigner and would steal the spotlight from Harris. So her cowardice and her insecurities forced her to choose the only guy who looks older than Biden. Here they are together in Philly.
Since the day that I announced my candidacy, I've set out to find a partner who can help build this brighter future. With his experience, I'm telling you, Tim Walz will be ready on day one. And now, welcome the next Vice President of the United States, Tim Walz.
Thank you for bringing back the joy. I couldn't be prouder to be on this ticket and to help Vice President Harris become what we all know is very, very good for us to think about. Next President of the United States of America. So we got 91 days. My God, that's easy. We'll sleep when we're dead.
In the one opportunity Kamala had to separate herself from the Biden administration, she chose a sloppier version of Biden. Do the chemists in the Democrat lab think you have to pair old white guys with young black women? Tim Walz looks like Biden and sounds like Bernie.
Not young black women, young Indian women.
We can get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
How did Kamala make a vice president more radical than she is? They're the Jordan and Pippen of progressives. The last time Harris and Walz tangoed, he let rioters burn down Minneapolis, and she bailed him out. Walz blamed America for the Black Lives Matter riots and said they were exciting.
A society that does not put equity and inclusion at the center of it is certainly going to eventually come to the places where we're at. They're going to want fundamental change. And that is what I think, that's one of the exciting things in the midst of all this. You can feel a sense of optimism coming back.
The Minneapolis mayor was begging Governor Walz to deploy the National Guard. And Walz told the Guard, stand down. He told the police to surrender their precincts. And once the city was a pile of ashes, he defunded the police. What kind of Midwestern dad with Midwestern values lets a city burn to a crisp and then lets crooked donors swoop in and buy up the real estate on the cheap? When haters were ripping down statues of Columbus, Waltz didn't stop them.
It was an act of civil disobedience that we need to make sure people feel that there is a proper outlet to address what are legitimate concerns around what they view as a genocidal monument that they have to walk to in their democracy.
It's our democracy, too. If Kamala was the most radical senator, Tim Waltz is the most radical governor. When Kamala was letting illegals pour in, Waltz was giving them driver's license and free tuition. Minnesota's a sanctuary state, and he wants to help make America a sanctuary country.
You know, he talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder factory. That's not how you stop this.
Waltz let his best city burn down, flooded it with illegals, and helped cancel the state flag to make it look more like the flag of Somalia. How do we know this guy's crazy? Squad loves him. Omar, AOC, thrilled. Bernie, thrilled. The Democrat Socialists of America, thrilled. Offering up an over-the-top endorsement as if Waltz was Castro. Dylan's thrilled because Waltz turned Minnesota into a sanctuary state for sex change operations for children. No age limits.
We want every Minnesotan to grow up feeling safe, valued, protected, celebrated, and free to exist as their authentic versions of themselves. Protecting and supporting access to gender-affirming health care is essential to being a welcoming and supportive state to the community.
Waltz signed a bill that removes a child from their parents' home if the parents don't want to castrate them. He's sick. Waltz forced schools to stock tampons in boys' bathrooms. Tampons in fourth grade boys' bathrooms. What a freak. What do boys need tampons for? This guy's not Minnesota nice, he's Minnesota nuts. Minnesota lockdowns were worse than California's. Not only did he keep schools and churches locked down, but he set up a hotline so your neighbors could snitch on you for leaving your house without a mask. He probably learned this from China, where he visited 30 times. Weird, right? I'm sure he paid for all those trips himself on a teacher's salary. Walt spent his honeymoon in China. He's being groomed by the Chinese. Now, if I was the FBI, I'd do a background check just to be safe. He loves China just as much as Biden. 3 months before Biden detonated himself at the debate, Waltz was full steam ahead on the cover-up, said Biden was fresher than ever.
I think this week watching, some of the media colleagues look at this as a new Joe Biden. No, it's not. It's the same competent Joe Biden that's been delivering for us. Governors understand that because we have to do it every single day.
Waltz has a lot of common and Paulie P. Remember Paulie? He T-boned a seasonal worker, then handed the highway patrol a donor card. Waltz was caught drunk driving, 96 and a 55, claimed he wasn't actually drunk. He was just deaf from serving in the military. But he actually blew a .12. Waltz served in the National Guard until his unit was deployed to Iraq, and then he abandoned them.
Back in 2005, a warning order went out to the 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery to mobilize for a mission to Iraq. At the time, Walls served as the unit's highest non-commissioned officer, but months later, Walls would retire from the Guard, avoid the deployment, and run for Congress.
The public needs to know how pathetic his leadership was as a National Guardsman. He abandoned us. What the hell kind of leader does that? He just, as soon as the shots were fired in Iraq, he turned and ran the other way and hung his hat up and quit.
It's crazy that he made it so far ahead in life, even after failing.
When soldiers, police, and families needed Waltz the most, he walked away. This is a trick pick. Democrats think they can trick you with an old white guy from the Midwest, but he's a freak in sheep's clothing. Democrats can't be honest about who they are. They have to lie to you and hide their positions. But there's something else going on here. Obama didn't want Kamala. He wanted an open convention. But Biden endorsed her before Barack could make a move. So Barack put Eric Holder, his wingman, in charge of Kamala's VP vetting. And Holder just served up Waltz, creating the craziest ticket in history. Is Waltz just a sacrificial lamb?
This is like a losing ticket. They're just designed to lose.
Do they know they're going to lose? Because all the talented Democrats are being kept on ice for 28. Newsom, Shapiro, Gretchen Whitmer. So when Harris-Walz loses, then Barack can say, see, far left, I told you so. We tried it your way. Now we do it my way. Former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy is here.
Yeah.
How does this pick change the dynamic of this race, Vivek?
The reality is, to be totally frank, the last few weeks have not been our best, Jesse. This gives us the reset that we needed. This is a gift from on high from the Democratic Party. It is also a lens into how Kamala Harris will govern. Unlike a lot of other people, I don't think Kamala Harris is particularly ideological. I don't think she has far-left ideology. I don't think she has any ideology. But it shows how she's going to buckle to pressure, because this was the first presidential-style decision that she had before her. Do you want a governing agenda of a centrist who I disagree with on a lot of things, but Josh Shapiro, or do you want to buckle to the cave of pressure from the radical left? She made the choice. And so I think this is our best lens to see how she's actually going to govern. The reality is the vice president is far less relevant. He's not going to be the one setting policy. The reason I actually find this decision fascinating is it gives us a lens into the way Kamala Harris makes decisions. And the reality is she buckles to the person who ultimately puts the most pressure on her. That's what we learned today. This is a gift. It resets the race. And I think we are on path back, yes, once again, to a victory, because Pennsylvania could back again be in play for Republicans.
Yeah, you're right. Shapiro definitely was going to help with Pennsylvania. He doesn't help anywhere. They say he helps with the Midwestern white man. Are they going to buy this guy that wants to give boys tampons in 4th grade?
Crazy.
The reality is this is a guy they're pitching in completely the wrong way as some type of Midwestern unifier. First of all, you can't be the unifier while also leading the charge on calling 70+ million Americans weird in his term. And the reality is we have a much stronger case in return if we want to play that game. Boys versus girls, can't define the difference. Boys competing with girls in women's sports competitions, even taking away your gas stoves. He's actually been one of the greatest climate alarmist governors in the United States on the left or the right. So if we wanted to level that charge in return, we have a stronger case. But the reality is he can't be a unifier, but also somebody who's alienating 70+ million Americans as just plain weird, as he calls it. The other thing is it's just one Potemkin village of identity politics, Jesse. The Democrats, it's almost as they don't look at the actual content of the candidates they put up. They realized it had to be a black woman in the vice presidency, now the presidency. That's exactly the reason Kamala got her job. But having checked that box, now they need to revert the other direction,
right? Which
is a Midwestern, folksy white guy of a regular type. And the reality is when they stop giving positions out on the basis of merit and start using these group quotas in either direction, they end up with the worst of all worlds. And that's what this ticket represents.
All identity politics, it does not work.
The Minneapolis riots, that's going to be front and center in this campaign. It's going to be about the economy. But remember in that summer what happened? He let that city burn. He let it burn and then blamed America for the fact that it burned. Why would she pick someone like that on the ticket? Why?
Well, the fact of the matter is she wasn't making a sound decision, but there's 3 issues that matter in this election, Jesse. Immigration, economy, crime. On economy, he raised taxes, shows you what he thinks about economic growth. On immigration, he wants to build a ladder over the border wall and give free health care and taxpayer-funded subsidies to migrants. And on crime, that's really where the George Floyd riots come in. This is not turning America into St. Paul or Minneapolis. That's what they want to do. We say no. We have a clear choice to do it in the ballot box in November. And I think this is now our race to lose. Let's step up, focus on our agenda. And if we do, we win this thing once again.
It would be crazy if we lose, man. There's no way legally that we can lose. That means the Republicans.
You're right about the Democrat machine. They have decided to run crazy San Francisco and burning Minneapolis against Donald Trump. And that is just, that's not going to work out. I don't think it's going to work out. We'll wait and see, but
hope.
That's just crazy. Vivek, thanks as always.
Yeah. Thank you.
All we got is hope at this particular point. Let's just hope.
So why did Tim Walz spend his whole life in China? And why is nobody talking about it? It took just 5 minutes for us to find out Kamala's VP Tim Walz? Is Ilhan Omar in a suit, an ill-fitting suit at that? Do your own research. He's a child sex change surgery fanatic who put tampons in boys' bathrooms, hates Columbus, created a COVID snitch line, and allows gay erotica in school libraries. He's a socialist riddled with white guilt and took it out on Minneapolis, even rolling the windows down to smell the burning rubber during the summer of love. But Nancy Pelosi says her pal Walz is normal.
Tim Walz is wonderful. To characterize him as left is so unreal. It's just not what the question. He's right down the middle.
He is far left. Like, why shouldn't we believe our eyes and what we can see that the man is far left?
A heartland of America Democrat.
Why isn't Nancy proud that he's liberal? What's wrong with being liberal? The media, instead of doing their jobs, just repeated what Democrats told them. Watch this.
Walz appears to fit the all-American definition of a man from middle America. High school teacher, football.
He's stuttering. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Coach, member of the Army National Guard.
He has this folksy, personal, informal vibe. A lot of people have noticed this sort of down-to-earth, likable quality to him.
He's quirky. He's funny. He's clearly qualified for this job. That authenticity, you can't make that up. That is who you are.
You actually can make that up. Democrats do it all the time. We call it the bait and switch. They did it with Biden, told us he's a moderate, then he broke the border and the bank. Then they told us he was sharp when they knew he was cooked. Then they switcherooed him for Kamala, even more left, even more deceptive. Now they say Kamala's not the border czar, not liberal, but we won't interview her. Just trust us. Democrats don't even know who they're voting for, or maybe they do, and they just don't care. We sent Johnny to the Kamala Walz rally in Philly. Watch.
Who's excited for Tim Walz?
Yeah, who isn't? He's a Midwest princess. I love Tim Walz.
I'm liking him. He's kind of new to my radar screen.
Why do we like him? Because he's likable. And because if we want to call a spade, he's non-threatening.
I don't know too much about him except what I read this morning.
Tim Walz is giving illegal immigrants driver's licenses.
Giving illegal immigrants driver's license? Yeah. I personally have not heard about that.
I also don't necessarily believe that a person is illegal.
Quite frankly, if you're not Native American, you're an immigrant anyway.
Illegal elements, driver's license. No, that's not a good thing.
He's putting tampons in little boys' bathrooms.
Get out of here. I am going to do my research on him. That don't sound good at all.
Michael Schellenberger is a Substack columnist. Michael, how effective is the media going to be in just deep sixing everything Walz has done?
Yeah, good to be with you, Jesse. I mean, I think it's a cynical pick on the one hand. I think that all those superficial characteristics that you were just describing are the things that probably appeal to Kamala Harris. I mean, she's really, like people said, she's not really running on an agenda. It's all about image. The problem is that when you dig into these big controversies, the unwillingness to call out the National Guard for 3 days after Black Lives Matter protests turned into riots, on the COVID snitch line. And I think the third issue is the biggest, which is this gender medical mistreatment scandal. Jesse, the polling on this is much worse than it appears. Many more Democrats are opposed to giving kids confused about their gender drugs and surgery. The UK's Liberal Labour government just upheld a ban on puberty blockers that was imposed by the previous Conservative government. That's not something I've seen. Trump has been making an issue of it. That's the issue that's in the present as opposed to COVID and BLM protests. I think that one could potentially cause significant damage because it undermines the Democrats' claim to be more compassionate and to care about vulnerable people.
Do you expect an interviewer to ask Kamala Harris, well, you know, your VP nominee, he wants you to be able to castrate first graders. Do you agree with that?
I actually think it will have to come up. I really do. I think at some point it'll have to be in the debates or somewhere else that he is going to have to address that issue. And I don't think Democrats want to address it right now. I mean, one of the creators of so-called gender medicine in Finland just renounced it. I mean, it's really falling apart very quickly. So I think that ultimately Kamala has shown that she's insecure. She just didn't want a really strong politician. Everybody knew Josh Shapiro was the best guy for the job. He cuts the best figure. He's more moderate. He's the governor of Pennsylvania. Why would you not pick him? And so everybody said she needed to pick. I think he intimidated her that shows a real deep insecurity, and that kind of weakness, I think, is going to start to come out more and more. It's someone that's running a campaign that's based on appearance and identity and superficiality. And then when you look under the hood, you get these pretty gruesome gender medical mistreatments.
I cannot believe she didn't book Josh Shapiro. He intimidated me, Mike. We watched him deliver that speech in Philly on the 5. This guy is the Jewish Obama. He had the audience in his hand like putty. Even I was mesmerized. Why wouldn't she pick him? That's a layup in Pennsylvania.
I mean, look, they have to be thinking that they want to mobilize the progressive base and win moderates. There's no way they can win the election without winning moderates. So I'm not really sure. I think it's a mistake. I mean, you know, they did. David Plouffe, who's Obama's aide, just went to work for the campaign 5 days ago. They have top professionals. I can't figure it out. I think it's a huge mistake, particularly on this gender mistreatment scandal.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a kamikaze mission that's designed to fail. That's how bad this ticket looks. But you never know. They've pulled rabbits out of their hats before. All right, Mike, have fun in San Francisco for me. Kamala Harris may not have much foreign policy experience, but her new running mate, Tim Walz, is very, and I mean very well traveled. He's been to China more than 30 times and doesn't think they're our biggest rival.
I lived in China, and as I said, I've been there about 30 times, but if someone tells you they're an expert on China, they're probably not telling you the truth because it's a complex country, but it's critically important for us. I don't fall into the category that China necessarily needs to be an adversarial relationship. I totally disagree.
Walz first went to China in 1989 to teach English and fell in love with the country, telling a local paper, "No matter how long I live, I will never be treated that well again. They gave me more gifts than I could bring home." Sounds like Newsom. Remember when he was going around admiring the cranes? In fact, he loved China so much that he and his wife got married on the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre and then honeymooned there in the 90s. He later set up a program to take high school kids to China every summer for nearly a decade. And according to local reporting at the time, the Chinese government paid for it. And while they were abroad, Walz told his students to downplay their Americanness. If he becomes vice president, what does that mean for America?
Tim Walz is a guy who wants to ship more and more American manufacturing jobs to China. He said it on camera in the name of the green energy scam. Well, if you care about the environment, and I certainly do, why are you going to ship American manufacturing jobs to the dirtiest economy in the world? Why wouldn't you keep them right here?
In back-to-back elections, Democrats have put guys with deep ties to the Chinese on the ticket. What's that about? Polaris national security founder and former State Department spokesperson Morgan Ortagus. Okay, 30 times to China, and then you honeymoon there? Morgan, what's that about?
The honeymoon is definitely weird, a word that the governor likes to use. But what's even weirder is the fact that you have the Chinese Communist Party paying for young students, as you mentioned, at least 10 years, maybe 11 years, to visit China. What is the purpose of this indoctrination? The purpose of this, the Chinese Communist Party, Jesse, is very smart. In fact, in February of 2020, then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo gave a speech to governors, Republican and Democrat governors around the country, and warned them and said this is the type of thing that the Chinese Communist Party will try to do. They will try to infiltrate. They will create Confucius centers in school. They will try to do these people-to-people exchanges. And it's all about covering up for the fact that the government is run by a bunch of communists who have an ongoing genocide, communists who are spying against the United States. We saw the spy balloon that traversed. And importantly, communists who knowingly and willingly send the precursors of fentanyl to the United States, the #1 killer of young people in our country, and the government knows about it.
Is Walz dim? Did he not realize he was being used by the Chinese Communist Party? Or does he just like to travel there?
Yeah. He was certainly either wittingly or unwittingly co-opted, in my opinion, by the government very early on. Again, this is a pattern. They want to take mayors, they want to take local elected officials early in their career to China to sort of whitewash over their many sins and many atrocities. You know, what doesn't make sense to me is, according to the reports I read today, he also taught a class, a Chinese Communist Party approved class in China in 1989 when Tiananmen Square had happened. So he had to see a lot of the evils of the Chinese government firsthand. I should note, Jesse, his beliefs on China, him wanting to engage economically and diplomatically with China are well out of the mainstream of Republicans and Democrats. President Trump changed the consensus, the foreign policy consensus in Washington, D.C. for both parties. He changed it when he came down the stairs in 2015 and started reminding everybody what a threat China was. And so the governor's views are so far out of the mainstream. He and Kamala Harris have to answer, what is their China policy going to be? Because this is a stark reversal from Trump and Biden.
Well, clearly the FBI has to open up a counterintelligence program on their campaign just to see if they've been compromised by the Chinese and just wiretap everybody involved. Because that's what they do, right? That's what they did to Trump. Yeah. So it's fair to do that to the Chinese and the Democrats. Maybe an idea.
Unbelievable.
Morgan, thank you. How's Kamala going to pay back her sugar daddies?
Hopefully you learned something from this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a like. And this new VP pick, hopefully swing voters will see through and look at how crazy it is. This whole Kamala Harris and whatever the guy name is, Walt pick. Insane. But my name is Noel. Welcome to Verbal on Life. Here, battling MS. Trying to bring you the news and hopefully you get well informed after this video. See you guys in the next video. Peace.
Verbal on Life.
With that said, let's try to get more subscribers out here. But this Walz guy, man, is the worst pick that somebody can make. I don't know how Kamala Harris did it. It's insane. And you know what it is? I think swing voters are the ones that got to wake up and not vote for Kamala, because the whole campaign is a disaster. The whole thing, like, what the hell is she doing? I can't even believe people don't wake up. Trump got nothing but wins under his belt. First off, he dodged a bullet that almost killed him. That's a win. Then they tried to get him in jail, but they couldn't. That's a win. He got 34 felony, which he's fighting right now. September 18th is when the judge is going to declare if he's going to go to jail or what. So if he goes to jail on September 18th, another historic move, the first president to go to jail. And then they are plotting that if he does win, I forgot the guy's name. If he does win on January 6th, they're going to do a coup, or they're going to do something to say that he doesn't qualify to be president because he got 34 felonies, which is a lie. You could go to jail and still be the president of the United States. And that's the move they're trying to pull. They're trying to say that if you go to jail, you're not allowed to be president. But it's a lie. Let's see what happens. It's going to be crazy. If they do pull something like that, we might see a civil war. Hopefully we don't see a civil war, but we might. I said war. We are going to some crazy times. And I'm glad to be alive in these crazy times. Trump 2024, he will win. My opinion. We got to put our opinions out there. That's all we got. With that said, any comments? Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'm going to be uploading this on my other YouTube channel, Fisticuffs. And also, what's the other one's name? I forgot. But I got to set this up to different channels. Let's see. Little by little. Who is calling me? I have no clue. But again, over here, if you're battling anything, right now I'm battling MS. So walking and talking is not easy. It is difficult. I don't know if you could tell. I'm trying to talk as fast as I can, best possible, because the only way to battle anything in life is just to fight it head on. You can't just shut your head down and ignore the problems. You got to face them head to head. So